Zach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Do you have a quote, something that inspires or motivates you that you can share with us?
Yeah, I'll say one of my favorite quotes is I think it's Seneca. It's luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And I sort of believe that to be quite true. I think in life, a lot of people's success comes down to luck, but the important thing is you've got to realize that and pounce, right? You've got to be prepared and like take advantage of it when it happens.
Tell us about Hint Health. What does the product do? Who's it for? And what's the main problem you're helping to solve?
Yeah, so we serve we're a healthcare company. We serve a community of doctors that are basically stepping outside the insurance fee-for-service infrastructure in the US healthcare system and going direct to either patients directly or actually direct contracting with employers. So, we can talk about why we do that, but the high level is this is how we think we can transform the healthcare system and make it better. And what we do for these customers, we're their billing system, so their membership management and billing and payments. So we're handling, $500 million plus of payments across close to 1,000 customers.
Great. And can you give us a sense of the size of the business? Where are you in terms of revenue, size of team, customers?
Yeah, so as mentioned, around about 1,000, just slightly shy of 1,000 customers. That's representing, 750,000 lives across a few thousand doctors. Processing in terms of payments, $500 million more plus through the platform. We're about 35 people, about 40 people actually now, and we are close to 8 figures in revenue.
And I think in terms of funding, you guys have raised about 64 million so far?
About 60, about 60 total across 4 rounds.
So let's start with the idea for this business. Where did it come from? Do you have a background in healthcare?
I didn't have a background in healthcare until the company before this, where I was at about 3 years. I'd always been interested in healthcare, but more from a kind of a personal human performance or personal health perspective. But my experience at this last company really opened my eyes to how broken the system was. And my favorite quote is, it's like we're wasting about $1 trillion a year in healthcare in the US, which is NASA's budget since inception. And NASA's done a lot of cool stuff. That's a lot of money. And that's every year it's wasted. And we're not getting a good deal either, right? It's 20% of GDP and it's half as good as a lot of other modern economies in terms of what you'd consider like quality or whatever. And so when me and my co-founder, we met at the last company and we thought, okay, let's go off and do something that we think could fundamentally transform this problem. And so we spent a bunch of time, like 2 or 3 months, looking at, half a dozen or more ideas, trying to figure out like what are things that in theory at scale could fundamentally transform the US healthcare system. And the rubric we were using was, there was a few kind of intersecting Venn diagrams. One of the Venn diagrams was, okay, if everyone in America had access to this innovation, would it address that $1 trillion problem, right? Would it actually change the system versus would it just be incremental innovation? It doesn't really change anything. It just shifts money around. So that was the first kind of circle in the Venn diagram. The second circle was we want to build technology because we're kind of technologists and we want to do a tech startup. And so that was kind of a part of that rubric. And the third one was we want to be able to do something that we could move pretty quickly on and get into market fast, right? We didn't want to have a business where it was like, hey, we're going to do a bunch of stuff and then in the future we'll make some money. We wanted to make money day one, or maybe not necessarily day one, but like pretty fast. And that was kind of how we were thinking about things. And I'd potentially in hindsight maybe change some of that thinking, but that's where we landed. And okay, let's build this billing infrastructure for this community of doctors that are stepping outside the broken system and redesigning it from first principles. Let's build the software that they're currently using spreadsheets to handle their payments and things. So that's where we started.
I mean, anybody who's an entrepreneur, certainly in the US, knows from how difficult healthcare becomes once you leave a full-time job and have to go and get it yourself. And the same thing happened for me when I was working at Microsoft. I didn't care about the healthcare thing; it was all taken care of. And then once I'm on my own, it was like, okay, well, one option is like paying $20,000 a year and a huge deductible and then you can get some healthcare. Or the other option was like, well, what if you didn't have anything and you just pay out of pocket? And then, in the last few years, I've sort of discovered this in between where, there are these, these doctors and these primary care providers who are going direct to patients and build this different model. But it's still a very niche market. And, as you and I were talking earlier, it's one that's growing, but why did you pick this in terms of, so you found a problem that you could solve, but I'm sure, 7, 8 years ago, it was even, much more smaller. Yeah.
More niche. With this business, we truly, both my co-founder and I, we truly realize we're either going to do something that could transform the entire system from first principles and like fix the problem, or we're going to not go do healthcare. Like, because let's go do something else, like we have lots of other interests. But the way I tend to think about it is that I think the healthcare system is so broken that it's simply not possible to fix it by just adding stuff to the current system, like that kind of incremental innovation on top of the current system. And so we knew it was going to be hard, but we also saw a clear path. It's like, it's about 8 years in now. And the path is still the same. I still see the same path. It's just like, this is going to take a bit longer than I thought it would. Which honestly, like, if you're going to try to redesign the system from first principles, you probably should have realized you're signing up for a multi-decade thing. And if you're not down for that, don't do that, right? Like that's a long time to be grinding. And so it really just came down to, I couldn't see, and still to this day, can't see another path that fundamentally transforms US healthcare. And that doesn't involve redesigning from first principles, fixing primary care, stepping outside of the status quo, kind of chassis fee-for-service infrastructure, and like just all of the legacy things that don't work and we know don't work. And so we're still on the same path and still passionate about it, but it's just a long journey, and it's, we're not necessarily in a market where hyper growth, right, is possible, at least right now. I think it is possible at some point, but it's not a typical like venture-backed path. And we kind of knew that a little bit going into it, honestly.
So how did you get started? So you've identified a market. You think that there's a good problem and an opportunity for you guys. What did you do? Did you spend a bunch of time going deeper into that and trying to validate the idea? Did you start building a product?
It was interesting. Once we kind of identified this community of doctors, that we thought, okay, this could be almost like, the way I tend to think about it is the sand with which the pearl will form around, with which we could then start to transform the broader healthcare system. And we're still in the forming the pearl phase, by the way. But once we had identified that and we thought, this actually could be it, right? And everyone's going to think we're crazy and it's totally non-consensus and whatever else. Once we had though committed, hey, let's do something here, we actually moved like lightning, right? We went to the first conference in this movement. We pretty quickly identified within a matter of weeks, like hardcore cold calling, networking, flying around the country, some early prospects. And then we started identifying a problem. My co-founder actually started coding stuff. Like he was like, I'm going to start building something because we roughly know which direction we're going to head in. And I started trying to close people on the promise of, hey, a product in the next few weeks, right? So we actually generated, within about 30 days, we had our first revenue, after we decided this is the thing, right? You can do a lot in 30 days with a solid engineer and a solid salesperson that knows how to get stuff done. So we generated our first revenue and had our first paying customer and our first user. And if anything, like one of the learnings I would have is, if anything, we actually went too fast. In hindsight, I probably would. In hindsight, it's always 2020, and maybe it wouldn't have worked out for the better. But if I had to go back and do things differently, I would probably have spent more time researching the customer and the problem than we did. I probably would maybe even gone in and worked in the doctor's office for free, even, right? Hey, I'll be your admin for 3 weeks, right? I'm going to go and like sit down and study the problem versus just like striking like striking like lightning on day one and just starting to build and sell and get something in market.
I want to dig into that a little bit more because most founders would be super happy if in 30 days they've got their first paying customer. And so people might look at your story and say, yeah, Zach's saying that, but it worked out okay for him, not going deeper and taking his time. So can you just help us understand why you say that now? What problems did you have to deal with because you didn't spend more time going deeper?
This is a 60-40 thing. I'm not 100% sure it would have been better to spend more time. It's more like I think it would have if I was to give it another shot. But I'd say the fundamental reason why is because, generally speaking, when you're early in building software and technology, everything's like relatively easy. It's like relatively easy to stand up a product if it's a simple surface. It's not a large surface area. And it's real, if you don't have any constraints, right? Like it's like we can kind of do anything and build anything for anyone, right? If you keep the surface area low, because you're able to move so quickly, you can also move quickly, kind of slightly in the wrong direction, versus later once you have customers and revenue and momentum and infrastructure and whatever else you put in place. The cost of change actually goes up more and more and more over time. So if that initial path you're on is like a little bit off, you end up spending quite a bit of time later on fixing the things that would have been relatively easy to figure out if you just spent a little bit more time thinking about it. Now, so it's really just, maybe I'll try to summarize is it's sort of a trade-off thing, right? You're trading off speed right now for kind of think of it as like product debt later. And that might be the right trade-off. And in the early days, that speed equated to, okay, we know there's a problem because people are paying us, right? And they're using it. So we've got some insights there and there's value there. But I think if you're thinking about that trade-off, I think just know that it's not free. Going fast does have some downsides and they may be the right trade-off. But that downside is that your cost of fixing the stuff you got wrong because you went too hard fast can be quite high later. And if we had known all the things we knew even 6 months or a year in, I would say we'd maybe be potentially 2 years further along from a product perspective, right? Because you have to take all that baggage with you through the journey.
Yeah, because if you don't understand the problem deeply enough, then you may make decisions in terms of the way you build the product, as you said, is going to cause product debt later on. And then also when you have a smaller set of customers, you're going to get requirements which might sound like a good idea until you realize you just built a custom product for one customer.
And customers never know what they want, right? They think they know what they want, but the classic, if you ask them what they want, you'll build a bit of horse, right, and carriage, right? And honestly, I actually think we could have learned a lot by just, hey, I'll be your free admin working for your thing. We'll work for you for free, and for a month, like that would have been so much more versus like, hey, what's the problem? Oh yeah, right now, like I'm using a spreadsheet. It's a bit of manual stuff. We'd look at this spreadsheet and then we're like, oh, we can automate that. And so you automate the broken process they had versus like, what is the fundamental problem that you're trying to solve? And like, I'm going to solve it for you so I can really understand it authentically and really truly understand the underlying problems that surface into the broken spreadsheet you have. And that would be, I think, but there's a trade-off. Like you can't do that for 2 years, right? Because you're not going to build business. But doing, more than one day where it's like, let's just start coding something is probably also the other extreme where it's like, you know what, maybe you go a bit slower, right?
Yeah. How long did first customer in 30 days, how long did it take you to get to the mythical first 10 customers?
I'd say it was, first 10 customers, paying us something. It's probably like 3 months or something, 4 months. It's a little bit too far away for me to remember, but I'd say I'd say it's probably a few months, right? A quarter or something. But again, like they weren't paying us tons of money either, right? Our first customers, we actually had them on a percentage of transactions through the platform product, so they didn't even have to pay us any money out of pocket up front, which we changed at some point. But yeah, it was can be somewhat a little bit hard to define what your first customer is, because then maybe they're just kicking the tires because they didn't have to actually sign a contract or anything. It was all click wrap.
Got it. So basically, you were giving the product for free to start using it, and then there was a commission, transactional, whatever money they made, then you made some money. So that, I guess, that reduces some of the friction in terms of getting people onboarded.
Yeah, but that was sort of this kind of the business model that we put in place on day one. But the first customers, there was a couple. We actually went into their offices and they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm about to spend $20,000 customizing a Salesforce implementation, so they don't have to use a spreadsheet or whatever." And those customers, I actually said, "Hey, listen, pay me $15,000 and I'll custom build it for you from scratch." So actually first month I had $20,000 contract, but it wasn't like recurring or anything. I was just like, "Will you pay me $20,000 to do this for you?" And I got another one that was like $15,000 or something. They weren't like SaaS recurring. It was more, think of it as almost like consulting projects, and with a view that, hey, and eventually we'll put you on our recurring revenue thing later if you're happy with the product. But then once we started going down a path, then we started with, hey, put all your payments through Hint, and then we'll just take 1% of all that, and there's no upfront fee. And so yeah, there's a little bit less friction. But typically what we'd do is we'd try to sell them on, hey, but part of this deal is we're going to move all your patients to Hint, right, onto our platform. So we'd try to validate that there was intention around that. So it wasn't just a bunch of tire kickers, which is not a great thing for a SaaS company.
What was the hardest thing about getting those first 10 customers to say yes? So you took away kind of like the pricing objection. I'm sure there were, I imagine that these kinds of practices, there's a whole bunch of issues around privacy and HIPAA compliance that they kind of, have to worry about. And then potentially working with a startup where they don't really know, there isn't a kind of a track record. Maybe not as hard as selling to an enterprise customer, but I'm sure there was still some element of that. So was it mainly those kinds of issues, or were there any other problems that you had in terms of convincing these people to say yes?
Yeah, all the stuff you mentioned was all true. New people, like, who are you? You're not even, like, never heard of you before. What do you know about our problems and all that stuff, right? And actually, one of the ways the way around most of that was, we are committed selling why you do it, not what you do, right? I can't remember who it was that said that, I'm quoting, but it was very much, and this is still the case today, vision. Like, we believe that you are the solution to this problem. We want to help support you. We're very much aligned with you in terms of your mission, and we want to work alongside you in achieving this mission, right? And so that was the sales process. And then it's like, oh yeah, we do some billing stuff, right? So that was how around a lot of the objection, and a lot of that was through cold calling. It's like, hey, we're entrepreneurs and we're looking to support this community, right? And they're like, oh wow, that's weird. Like, there's 80 of us, and we're like, yeah, we know, but we still exaggerating a little bit, but like, so that was it. But I'd say that the more hard objections beyond that stuff was really, I'd say, two things. First was, gosh, that seems like a lot of work to migrate all my things into your product, right? Like, I didn't even know where to start with that. It's like payment information, the membership information, it's stored in multiple different places, blah, 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 right? So that was one piece. And the other piece was, if I don't get my payments next month because you fail, I will go out of business. Right? So yes, your software helps automate all these different things. My current process is broken, but it's not so broken that I'm going to go out of business next month. So you guys, this new company, if this doesn't work and I miss a payroll, I'm done. And those are two big fundamental problems. So the way we got through the first objection was, we'll do it for free. We will data migrate everything for free for you. And actually, we still do that today. We've just got very good at it. But at the beginning, it was a nightmare. I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't scalable. But we started to see, okay, well, there's some patterns here, and actually you get pretty good at it. And like, once you've done it 10 times, then it gets easy kind of thing. So that was how we got through that objection. And people were like, oh, okay, cool. The second piece was hard, honestly. And literally in the early days, I remember one of our first customers, a guy called Dr. Rob, he told me this story. And I said, Dr. Rob, if you miss payroll, I will personally guarantee that I'll pay your bills. Oh, I will pay you whatever money out of my personal pocket that if we screw up. And he went, oh, okay, cool. Let's get started then. And then I was like, oh shit, he said yes. Really, like, Graham, let's not screw this up. So I was probably putting about 20K on the line, which is like a lot to a founder, but also I'm like, you know what, I'm 99% sure that we're going to get this done, especially if there's 20K on the line. And so it was just a risk I was willing to take, because if and then that problem over time went away. Right? If you've done it enough times, you got enough use cases and enough case studies and enough trust that you built in the community, that second problem went away, and we still continue to solve the first problem.
Great. So that gets you to the first 10 customers. Did you raise any money at that point, or were you bootstrapping up to the first 10?
Yeah, we raised money pretty quickly. Once we kind of started onboarding customers, we started realizing, gosh, we probably should, get another engineer and, maybe hire someone in customer support, because Zach's going to be doing lots of product and sales work. And so we're like, yeah, we don't want to put our own personal finances on the line, because we're definitely way off from having the revenue needed, especially with our sort of freemium model, right, where you scale with these clinics as they grow. So we went down the path of fundraising, and what was really interesting is I found the first round of financing was, and I'd say generally the first year of our company, I found relatively easy. Like, everything seemed to be easy. It was like, okay, got our first revenue, pretty easy. We've got a product to market, it seemed pretty easy. Fundraising, bunch of people that we'd worked with before or that really loved the vision or whatever, and we were able to get a round done quite quickly. And it was initially I did 250K, and then we ended up expanding that to like 1.3 million. And there's a few tricks I played along the way, but the high level was that I found that first money was the easiest money, which was actually a little bit of a trap for me later, because I thought it would always be easy, which obviously was probably just not a smart thing to think. But yeah, and then we started hiring people and scaled the team out.
Yeah, so you've gone through like 4 funding rounds, and I think a lot of people think, God, if I can just raise that first round or my angel round, I'm going to be good. And you were saying, like, yeah, I've got to like raising like over $60 million, and it keeps getting harder and harder.
Yeah, it's not easier. The running the business is not easier. Like, some stuff gets easier, obviously, but as a general rule, I found it harder and harder to fundraise. Like, the bar goes up, right? When you have no metrics, that's actually an advantage, because it's just like, hey, we're a smart team, and we've got a big vision and whatever. And like, look at our other investors, like, clearly they know what they're doing. And so you build momentum, and you can actually play some tricks. Like, one of the tricks it was not a trick, it was just generating momentum. It's like, we got an interview to YC. And so I was talking to a bunch of investors, like, hey, if we get into YC, the price is doubling. And they're like, okay, we'll just do it now before you get into YC. And then we actually didn't get into YC, but we got the money and the price didn't go up. But I wasn't lying. It was all true. And they knew what they were signing up for. But risk adjusted, yeah, like, probably if they're getting an interview, they'll get in. And so risk adjusted, it's the right move. So small things like that, which where you're sort of simulating momentum, leaning on the momentum, the other smart angels, and getting intros from them, and just building that pipeline and just closing it really quickly. But what I found over time is that, things started to get harder, right? And I think for us, the fact that we were early in a nascent market caught up to us pretty quickly, right? Where now it's like, what's your growth rate? Yeah, it's still solid. In the early days, we're growing, 80% a year or whatever, like just like any other startup, right? Like really fast, but it's on a small base. And so, yeah, I just generally found like running the company got harder, um, you know, and fundraising got harder. And I think, yeah, so maybe I'll pause there, but I think part of the thing maybe before I pause, I think the trap I fell into is I assumed things would get easier, and it was easy at the beginning. And I was like, I'm just going to fly through this. I'm a great founder. I'm going to keep dominating forever. But that was really a trap. Like, in a way, I wish the first round was brutally hard, and it would have trained me and got me ready for that. It's always going to be like that. I've pitched more than 1,000 investors in this company, to get that money. 1,000.
You pitched to 1,000 investors to get which money? Like through the process?
Yeah, over the lifetime of the company, I've pitched 1,000 investors.
Wow.
Some pitch might be a 15-minute thing, elevator pitch. Some might be a full partner meeting, the whole shebang. But I've had that many meetings, one with unique individual funds.
Because you would think once you've started to raise that angel round or the first round, you'd only have to have a few conversations because you're building a track record and credibility and whatever. So what was going on? Why did that happen?
Yeah, I'd say that at a fundamental level, there's a saying like, it doesn't matter if you're right, but your timing is wrong. That's the same as being wrong, right? At least right now. Like you could still be right later, but right now you're wrong because your timing's wrong. And so what I think the thing that made it really hard for us is total addressable market is not big enough. And venture investors, even though if you look at most of the big iconic, $100+ billion companies, they all started with no markets that they created, blah, blah, blah. Like even with all of that, if the total addressable market that you're targeting is not big enough, then investors, it's hard to convince them to give you money. Now, the way that's manifested itself in this business is I've got the money, but I've just had to get more dilution. But now what's interesting is we're coming around the corner. We've sort of survived. Like one of the things I think is almost like an axiom, like an axiomatic truth. It's like the founders that will succeed on average, right? Obviously, there's outliers where there's people that just dominate and create $100 billion company in 4 years or whatever. That's like most companies aren't that. But if you take the rest of that sort of bell curve of outcomes, the ones that end up in the upper quadrant are the ones that don't give up. Don't die, right? Don't be a zero. If you can stick around long enough, now there are some counter arguments to this, like, well, if you're doing the wrong thing, maybe you should kill what you're doing purposefully. But if you believe in what you're doing and you want to get there, don't give up at any cost and just keep grinding. And that's what we've done at Hint. And I would say the way that sort of market size problem has manifested itself, because I believe we're right? We were just very early. But the way it's manifested itself is we have less ownership in the business. But I'm okay with that because we're not about making money. Like, yes, I want to make money, but it's not the primary thing that drives me, right? If we have a outcome of the size that I think is possible, given the transformation that we think we can be part of driving, I'll be fine for money, right? Probably won't have $1 billion, but I don't need $1 billion. But if that's your goal, then I probably wouldn't do mission first, right? In the thing you're doing. Like if your goal is to make $1 billion, don't follow my path. It's probably not the best way to do that.
Yeah. I've spoken to a serial entrepreneur who's had several successful exits, and I think he said something once like 5% of $1 billion company is better than 100% of a company making no money, right? So that's kind of also one piece to look at it, but it strikes me that what you said there, the 1,000 pitches to investors, the kind of drive to keep going, a lot of that boils down to the mission. Now, a lot of the times when we talk about missions and vision statements and all that stuff, it's just a bunch of, hand wavy kind of stuff that doesn't really mean that much. Yeah. But if you really are like, say, you're kind of this business where you're like, hey, I'm driven by really making a difference here, that's going to give you a lot more endurance and stamina to keep going than I'm driven by building a SaaS business that makes money. Right? You probably go and move on and do something else, right? Because it's like, yeah, I can find a bigger market and the investors will love me.
No, I'd say that's completely true, and that's, I'd say, is permeated throughout the organization, right? Like, people join, a big part of the reason people join us at Hint is because of the vision and mission. And we've even had to coin a term for people that have left Hint and come back. We call them the Hint boomerangs, because they're like, they'll leave, they'll see more shiny objects somewhere else, leave, and then they'll realize, shit, like, Hint actually had meant something. It meant something to work at Hint, right? We actually were changing the world, right, in our small way, and we had a strong culture, and it really built great community within our customer base, and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, if we didn't have mission, if it was like, I would have given up. I can't remember how long I've been doing this, but it's like 8 or 9 years or whatever. I would have given up 7 or 8 years ago, because it's like, once it started getting hard, I would have said, you know what, this is maybe not the right thing. The other, maybe you'd made a point earlier, just in terms of, the gentleman who'd said, hey, I'd rather have 5% of $1 billion than 100% of zero, right? And I agree with that, obviously. But there's also a counter to it, where some of the most successful entrepreneurs I know financially held 80 or 90% of a $30 million business or $20 million business. 80% of 20 million is 16 million. I don't know what everyone's number is, but that's like, I don't need more than that personally, right? And I personally don't have a desire to be able to say, oh, I have $1 billion. I'm a founder that created $1 billion. So I think that maybe the point I'm trying to make is, like, don't be trapped in, as an entrepreneur, I think it's really important not to be trapped in, like, the Instagram post or the equivalent of social media, where it's like everything looks perfect. Don't let that be the thing that drives you, because you're not going to be happy if that's what drives you, right? Doesn't work, right? Because you get to $1 billion, and then there's a guy that's got 10 billion, and you feel like an epic failure because he's an order of magnitude. And you get to 10 billion, and then there's a guy with 100, and you're never going to be happy if the number is what is driving you. And so, yeah, it's like, what's the right path for you? It's like, it's financial independence that's important. Great. Well, you don't need to raise a lot of money necessarily to do that. But that could be the path as well. But with money comes some risks, like, there's some downside to money.
Yeah. It reminded me of this episode of Frasier I saw years ago. Like, Frasier and his brother Niles, they get into this health club. It's this exclusive thing. And they keep seeing this door that other people are going into. And they're like, what is that? And like, oh, that's the VIP thing. And then they just are just obsessed. Like, all they want to do is figure out how they can get through that door. And that's what the whole episode is about. And, eventually, they do a whole bunch of kind of shady things. They get through, and they think they're over the moon because they made it into the VIP area. And then they realize there's another door for another VIP section that they then kind of obsess and waste time about. So it's the same thing, right? You're never going to be happy if you're always chasing something like that.
And once you get into the VIP section, sometimes it's not as good, because there's not that many people, and you can't dance on the dance floor or whatever. It's like, let's leave here and go back to the normal. We're actually, in hindsight, we're actually pretty content with where we were.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So we talked about getting to the first 10 customers. Let's talk about the first 100.
Yeah.
What did you do? Was it still just a lot of hustle, cold calling, meeting people, or once you had the first 10, 20, did you start to take a different approach to growing the business?
Yeah, I'd say the first 100 was, still a lot of hustle, right? Like, and it was cold calling, networking, and things like that. And we did some content stuff. We hosted webinars. This is probably post 100 customers, but we launched our own conference, which we could talk about if there's interest there. But I'd say it was leaning on. I think the nuance was that we were leaning on the success of and the word of mouth that we were starting to generate, right? And some of the successes we were building there.
Yeah, because every time you're getting a customer on board, you're getting more and more social proof. Now, okay, so 100 is a hustle. Let's talk about the first 1,000. So the next kind of like level. I know one of the things you focused a lot on was thought leadership. What does that mean? Was that around content marketing? Was that around the event? Was it around something else?
I'm not even sure if we've crossed 1,000 yet, right? Like, yeah, I think we're close to it, right? Because one of the things that happened is our clients got bigger, right? So we started small, but as they grew, we grew with them, and we started building cadence around larger and larger deals, and built more features to support more sophisticated networks, things like that. So there was an element of our customer got larger, which I think is important in SaaS. But in terms of kind of getting from that 100 to 1,000 order of magnitude. For us, it was, primarily around ensuring we create a really amazing experience for our customers, really great customer support, really supporting them in as many ways as we can, really listening to like kind of what their core needs are and continue to support them. And I'd say a lot of our business started pivoting to word of mouth and kind of inbound marketing, inbound referrals from either customers or partners. And so I'll break that down a little bit. One of the strategies we deployed is we started partnering with other tech vendors that were serving the same community. There weren't too many of them, but we built integrations with them and we'd go to market with them. So we'll refer some business to you, you refer some business to us, we're going to do better together. You're an electronic medical record, we're a billing system. We'll refer leads to you and vice versa. So we got business from that. But we also got business because our customers had such a profound experience with us, and they saw the sort of authenticity we had with this market, that they would start referring customers. And so even today, a lot of our small to medium-sized deals come inbound. So what we started to do is, okay, are there ways we can kind of amplify that, right? That sort of brand halo and trust and fierce loyalty. What are the things we can do to lean into that growth strategy? Because it's the main thing that's working. And so we launched our first summit, which is an annual conference, and I invited, about 120 people, and about 120 people showed up. Right? Maybe I invited 150 people, but I personally reached out. I organized the speakers. I organized the venue. We got great food. We tried to do something unique and different. I made it about this community, and people signed up and they came, and we actually sold out and had reached the fire code. It was about 100 people in the space for it, and we breached it essentially. We did stuff like that. We experimented with content marketing. We'd interview doctors and do blogs with them. We would do the occasional webinar. We would bring someone in that's got interesting insights. Eventually, we turned that into actually our DPC, Direct Primary Care Accelerator program, where it's actually a free service we give to our customers, where if you're part of our community, then you'll get free education and free content and free webinars. And so that actually people talk about that, and that becomes a way that people come to us. And the other thing we did is we started experimenting with clients they're starting to build networks. So we built features that enabled them to manage those networks in Hint. So there's actually an element of kind of a network effect that happens with our product, where one doctor will actually invite another doctor. I'd say that's not the main growth driver, but it definitely does. It's a form of that referral pathway of an inbound lead that comes to us, develops that relationship with us, and then eventually converts to a customer. A lot of those strategies are still in play today. They're just bigger scale. So it's a lot of the same stuff that was working. We scaled it.
Did you charge people to attend the event?
Yeah, we did. We charged. Our goal was let's just break even. So I think in the first event, charged like $150 or something to come, and then if you didn't get a ticket early, it would be $250 or something like that. And I've always tried to keep that event affordable, and the intention has never been a money maker. It's just been, let's break even on this. And our last event, we had 450 people or something. Post-COVID, we're actually hoping for more than that. And people were paying anywhere from $350 to $550. And I anticipate that trend continuing, right? The costs will go up a little bit because we'll maybe go a little bit bigger, bring more people in, bring bigger keynotes, because I always try to bring some unique keynotes, and get more people to attend.
And then is this mostly customers attending, or are you trying to get this as a way to reach out to new potential customers as well?
I see this event as actually an industry event versus a user conference. And so it's more about what do we need to do as an industry to succeed, right? It's more about the mission. Turns out that half the people at the conference are Hint customers. And it also turns out that about half the people in this industry are Hint customers, right? Maybe not exactly that, but it's roughly. So in a sense, it's an industry conference, but we to have a lot of the industry. And so, but we definitely use it as a way to, I found it's very powerful from a sales perspective. If you're in a conversation with someone, you invite them to the event and they have a good time, you meet them in person, definitely helps close the deal. It reinforces we are here to support this community, right? My keynote is a big part of that. It's like, this is why we exist. I always talk about our mission and why we exist and what we do and why we do it. And that resonates, right, with people. And then we also have prospects, and we also have partners. So it's a way of making sponsoring. So if you want to be part of our annual conference, you need to be a partner. And in order to be a partner, we need to figure out how to create value for this community together. And what does that look like? And so it's a little bit of leverage as well around, hey, if you want to be part of this community, this conference, we need to figure out a way to work together in a way that creates value for people. So it becomes a BD driver as well. We actually turn away more sponsors from that conference than we accept, right, as sponsorship. So we're turning away money because people want to be part of that community. So that's the mix, I guess.
So one more thing I want to talk about before we wrap up here is we talked about some of the challenges you had with investors and the total addressable market. And on the one hand, you've stayed true to that mission and, not kind of compromised or gone down a direction which maybe would have, given you a faster growing business or a bigger total addressable market. But you have also tried to move horizontally into different areas, and that is something that you haven't been able to kind of figure out or crack. So can you just give me an example of what you've tried there and what were some of the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, I'd say that we've got our core kind of direct primary care segment, and we've spoken a bunch about that. But there has been points in time where we've said, okay, can we succeed in other segments but with a similar software? Like, are there other verticals in healthcare that need like a membership management system and could use our software because we built that? And there are, and we actually have a number of clients that have come to us saying, hey, I'm not DPC, but I'm a membership-based thing. Can we work with you? And absolutely, sure you can. Here's the software. We'll support you. What I've found is that, or if you're employee direct contracting, there's some other non kind of primary care segments that we support. What I've found is that we thought, okay, well, if there's a few that are coming to us, maybe like, why don't we spend a bit of resource to scale that? Because that could help fund our mission, right? If we get these other segments to pay us money. What I've found is that the sort of that sort of transition to new segments is, you in a way, you almost, I think, underestimate all the things you've done to have success in the segment that you're successful in. And what I mean by that is, it's like, okay, well, if you're going to go and sell into this other segment, you either got to build an outbound engine, which we have a semblance of, but it's not where most of our business comes from in our core segment. So you got to either build out an outbound engine and all the sales enablement materials and collateral and everything that would speak to those personas and all that work that kind of sounds easy, but it's actually like real work. Or we have to go build the authentic, mission-driven community kind of inbound marketing referral engine that we've built in the community that we're successful in. And that's also hard and takes time. And so it's not to say we haven't had some success in other verticals in healthcare. It's just that they don't scale as easily as you would anticipate without all of the foundational work that goes into scaling them. And if it's not the core focus of your business, the cost of dabbling there may be not necessarily worth the juice that you're squeezed from it. So that would probably be the learning there for us.
And so is that something that you're still trying or testing in different areas, or have you kind of just moved on from that?
I'd say we still are testing. I'd say that the testing though is more, what we try to figure out is, okay, what is critical path long term, and are these segments part of that, right? And if they are, what's the sequencing here? Can we bring that sequencing forward a little bit or not? And so one example of this would be, we have the small independent DPC clinics. We also have larger independent direct primary care clinics and network, and they primarily work with employers. And there's a lot of similarity from a cultural perspective there. And so it's like, okay, we can serve both those communities. But then there's like the sort of next segment up, which is like, I don't really self-associate with direct primary care, but I am direct contact with employers. I'm in like a near-site, on-site clinic group. So maybe I don't necessarily self-associate with this community, but I have at the end of the day the same long-term objective. And so we are paying more attention to that segment and trying to, because we've got a bunch of features and capabilities that could serve that segment. So we're doing so within the context of this needs to be part of the solution long term, because this is versus random segment that seems interesting as a way to make money. We try to put it on critical path so that we don't end up kind of straying too far from our sweet spot.
Great. Okay, we should wrap up. Move on to the lightning round. I've got 7 quick fire questions for you. Are you ready?
Yes. I think I'm ready.
What's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
Focus. Maniacal focus.
What book would you recommend to our audience, and why?
In the early days of Hint, I found Lean Analytics to be really helpful. And the reason I found it helpful is it really helped me think through, how do you define what are the key things we should care about from a metrics perspective, how do we measure them, and how do we let go of them when the time is right to let go of them, right? And the sort of sequencing of how do you focus your energy in the right parts of your business to kind of get you to the next stage. So I found that book really helpful.
What's one attribute or characteristic in your mind of a successful founder?
Build a culture that's authentic to you, because it's too hard to fake it. So if transparency is not a thing you're good at naturally, don't have it as a value. If it is, have it as a value, and so on and so forth.
What's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit?
I should have a really good answer to this. But what I was going to say was like, hire really amazing people so you can delegate things. But that's a cheat. That's cheating. That's not your question. I'd say
it's still.
But I'd say that the one that my favorite one is probably like, create lists. Just, and if you feel like you're not sure what the right direction is, sit down and just build a big long list. And just that process by itself will help you clear your thoughts and triage.
What's a new or crazy business idea you'd love to pursue if you had the time?
If I could do something now, I would consider jumping into the creating more fuel efficient transport, like flying transport. Like you have, drones you can sit in and like get from go, line of sight fully autonomously, like Uber, basically a quadcopter Uber, right? That would be something I think is definitely going to happen. That would be something I would probably look at.
I think I heard about something like that happening, and I think they were trying to do that in Dubai somewhere, like passenger.
Yeah, I think it's happening. Yeah, it's just a matter of time, and then you would solve a bunch of pretty interesting problems with that, like societal problems if that became mainstream.
What's an interesting or fun fact about you that most people don't know?
Um, I was Mr. New Zealand. I was I was the most eligible bachelor in New Zealand in 2002.
Wow, what was that like? Is that an event or some magazine thing?
Yeah, like a
or what?
magazine thing, kind of like an event. Yeah, and you know what's interesting about it is I think the reason I won is because it was the first year they had email voting, and I was at uni, and basically one of my friends submitted me to it, and then it went viral through the email list servers, and like everyone at uni voted for me.
And finally, what's one of your most important passions outside of your work?
A few years ago, I would have said, kite surfing, adventure sports, like being out in the outdoors, and that's all still true. But it's a bit cheesy, but like I have a lot of joy from I've got a young family, so I have two little girls, and just watching them grow and develop, it's like super fun. And then my third answer would be, I love playing board games, right? And like I don't do it much. I'm actually looking forward to my girls being older, but I love like sitting down around a table and playing like Risk or Catan or chess or something, or cards or whatever. I just love that, and I feel like that's somewhat been lost in today's day and age because everyone's on their machines, right? And it's something nice about the real world.
I've been getting into board games with my family over the last few years as well, and it's nice just to do that. So if we ever meet up, I'll bring some board games with me and
Sounds
we
good.
can play.
Yep.
Awesome. If people want to find out more about Hint, they can go to hint.com. And if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn. You can hit me on LinkedIn, or you can email me. You can email me at z@hint.com if you want. But if you cold email me though without an intro, there's a 50-50 I'll answer. Best way to get to is find someone that knows me and ask for an intro. And I pretty much never say no to intros, but I mostly just archive random cold emails.
Awesome. It's been a good conversation, man. Thank you for joining me and kind of talking about the last 8-9 years. I think there were some really interesting things that you shared that were very thoughtful. It's one of these interviews where I feel like I'm going to go back and there's a bunch of things that I can kind of listen to and sort of think more about and kind of just maybe even kind of just write about it or something. But there's some really interesting lessons there that you shared. So thank you for doing that. I love what you guys are doing. I love the mission. Personally, as a consumer, I was looking at direct primary care in the last couple of years and kind of wondering if I was kind of brave enough to kind of take the leap and do something different to what 90% of people are doing in this country. And it's I think it's an exciting area. And often when we look at sort of healthcare, most people will say, somebody's got to do something about this. And so it's inspiring to see that, you guys are actually, walking the talk. So, wish you all the best. And, I hope that what you're doing is a tremendous success for everyone in that community and that a lot of people, get benefit from that. So thanks again, and wish you and the team the best of success.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me and pulling all of those supposed insights out of me. And happy to chat anytime.
It's my pleasure.